Let's go talk about Curve, the popular decentralized application built on top of Ethereum, notably used for swapping in between stablecoins. There's some frustration between venture capital firms and the CEO of Curve, Michael Egorov, right now. ParaFi Capital, Framework Ventures, and 1KX, California-based venture teams are suing Michael for his involvement in alleged fraud of the three firms for investment advice that went unpaid for, and also $1 million that was in question as investment in the firm behind Curve itself. This is a pretty tricky subject because there's a lot of technical stuff in here, but I think at its basis, it's a conversation and frustration between venture capital firms, which want to be paid for their investments, and a decentralized application that went parabolic in both usage and interest during the DeFi summer and DeFi bull run of 2021. Gonna throw the story to Zach for your take on it. Recently, Egorov has been in the news because of some mansions he's purchased, which might put this story in a little bit of some bad light. But overall, the application Curve did do very, very well, and perhaps he's was supposed to be compensated for that. What's going on here?
Yeah, Curve is a really foundational part of the DeFi ecosystem, right? It's where all this sort of stablecoin liquidity sloshes through, right? And it's become a really important part of getting trades done. So the fact that this is sort of, spilling into the public with this ugly legal spat, and you have both lawyers sort of disputing the claims of the other lawyers. So it's really hard to say with certainty who's to blame here. But it certainly suggests that, there's bad blood here. There's bad blood. One side is saying, hey, your trade secrets or whatever were really just like the names of prominent other investors. What are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. They sent some money that went to an address and we offered to return it. But so it's honestly, it's really hard to arbitrate without knowing the specifics. What is with merit in this complaint and what is sour grapes or a manifestation of other frustrations that these people have amongst themselves. So I don't really want to wade into the claims, but it is certainly, something that happens in the space quite often. There's a lot of money at stake. There are oftentimes very loud personalities, very smart people, and oftentimes that mix of things can lead to some of these discordant outcomes where we see big, ugly lawsuits spill into the public eye, and it's hard for an outside observer to really know what's what. But all the people named here are very prominent in the DeFi world. Framework, certainly rose to prominence out of DeFi summer, really made its name by making some really savvy bets when DeFi first emerged as a growing concern in 2020 and 2021. So these are no slouches, right? This is a big DeFi platform and three arguably the smartest DeFi crypto VCs in the space. So the fact that we have sort of a big stakes battle going on among them, is interesting, is ugly, and it's going to be interesting to see how it resolves itself. Given the state of things. But Adam, I'll toss it to you.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at here is sort of the long distance view on a battle between giant alligators and giant sharks, right? They're all predators. They're all in this very much for their own, ends, and they take steps to protect themselves. That's what investment contracts are. Again, when we start talking about the SEC and the work that they do, well, really what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so that investors who are not venture capital funds are able to be protected because they don't have the advantages that these funds do. So I think the real question just comes down to, what did the contract say? What was actually signed in these cases and what was promised? And then how did that actually compare to what happened in real life? Because again, it's not like VCs are in this game because they're nice people. They're in this game because they want to make really, really ridiculous sums of money. And it's the same thing for folks who are starting these protocols and who realize the leverage that they have over very, very thirsty VCs for this type of exposure. So it's not surprising to see something like this blow up. Honestly, it's surprising that we don't see things like this blow up more often, given how kind of volatile the space is and Wild West it was for a long period of time, especially once you go back to kind of that period. Where the whole concept of DeFi was sort of being popularized. And again, you had kind of the degens running everything, playing games with themselves. So again, not surprising at all to see this. I also really want to see the details, but so far this smells like sour grapes to me more than anything else. Jen?
You pretty much said what I was going to say, Adam. I guess one clarification, Will, that I would love to hear from you is, are they suing for $1 million? Because if so, I feel like it sounds a little bit like sour grapes. Like between all these VC firms, suing for $1 million doesn't feel like a big chunk of change for them. It feels more like frustrations around not meeting some kind of mutual agreement. But like you said, Adam, I would love to see the details in this, but we can move on.
All right,
I can answer really quick. Should I answer?
Answer it, Will. Answer
I'll
it.
answer you. Then we'll go quick. There's a few things in here. So there's misappropriation of $1 million in funds that was sent to Curve, I guess, when it was booting up. There's also investment secrets, so like advice on how to get Curve bigger. And then also the fact that they like invested time, energy, and money into Curve, and they could have put that investment into something else. So I guess you lost some edge there as well. So there's a few different things here. I think the point is like Curve is really big now. Curve used to be really small. These three firms helped out Curve out when it was really small, and they lost out on all that upside because they weren't, I guess, included in the contracts correctly or whatnot. But definitely a big thing to follow